All right, friends, we've got a clip or two to show you here, but listen, I'm just going to remind you to be a conservative commentator or a Republican elected official is to play the game of American politics on easy mode. This media and political landscape is just designed to grade Republicans on a curve and to make it really hard for Democrats, such that Republicans can say or do whatever they want pretty much with impunity. I want you to watch this video, and then we're going to dive into the fact checks. But there's so many falsehoods that Nancy Mace just crams in there in 60 seconds. It's truly staggering.
You're seeing, since Joe Biden took office, crime skyrocket all around the country. And especially in big cities, you see illegal immigrants coming in, beating up our cops and being taken out without bail, let out of jail without bail, giving the middle finger to America and our men and women in blue and in uniform. You're seeing crime skyrocket. You're seeing fentanyl cases skyrocket. We're literally allowing China to import deadly drugs like fentanyl into this country, and it's killing our children and killing our citizens. We're allowing Joe Biden to have the cartel sneak drugs into the country, smuggle people into the country illegally. Like, it's just okay to do that under Joe Biden. It's not okay. We're a nation of laws and should follow them.
Hilarious coming from a woman who has openly endorsed Donald Trump, who is right now, I don't know, he's under 88 indictments or 88 charges, right? In like 4 different cases. Not exactly a beacon of law and order, but again, that just goes to show you the double standard that Republicans enjoy. They want law and order for everybody else except for them. So a couple of things I want to remind people of, all right? Fentanyl spiked under Donald Trump, right? This is a situation that we're experiencing with fentanyl, a crisis, which is indeed continuing under President Biden. We'll get to that in a second. It started under Donald Trump, right? So, but again, Republicans have a very short-term memory, but fentanyl spiked in this country in 2020 when Donald Trump was president. Joe Biden wasn't president in 2020, no matter how much Republicans like to pretend otherwise. That happened. The beginning of this crisis, the skyrocketing of fentanyl deaths and fentanyl trafficking in this country began under Donald Trump, and there is nothing that Nancy Mace can do about that. So if she really wants to address the fentanyl issue in this country, she should also start by pointing her finger at the man she's endorsing for the presidency a second time, after also saying publicly that he should be kept far from the White House. But that's just Nancy Mace for you. She says one thing on Monday, something completely different and contradictory on Wednesday, because she's a liar and a grifter. Moreover, the insinuation, she's not the first Republican to suggest it, is that President Biden is somehow allowing people to die in this country of fentanyl, okay? Well, set aside the fact that there have been a record number of fentanyl seizures at the border under Biden, right? Because he is doing his best. And you could almost make the argument from the left that Biden's border policy is draconian, right? There are many good faith criticisms to be made of him from the progressive left, but there's a record number of contacts between law enforcement and drug seizures at the southern border. It's not like Biden's rolling out the red carpet and saying, come on in. And actually, as a matter of fact, if you really want to get super specific, you could easily make the case that Nancy Mace and her fellow Republicans are actually contributing to the death of Americans from fentanyl, because there are fentanyl scanners, high-tech fentanyl scanners that are currently collecting dust because Republicans will not allow them to be funded. So this was reported a couple of months ago, and we've talked about this in a few videos. Scanners that spot smuggled fentanyl at the border sit unused because Congress hasn't provided the cash to install them. The money to install the screeners was in the supplemental funding request. Republicans blocked. So that's actually more on Nancy Mace and her fellow Republicans than President Biden. But again, facts are inconvenient for Nancy Mace. But here's where it gets interesting. So again, I mentioned in the intro, when she posted that video, it got ratioed to hell and back. Like the number of likes was a fraction of the number of quote tweets and response as well. I mean, people savaged her from all over the political spectrum because what she said was a demonstrable lie, because crime actually hasn't skyrocketed. It's plummeted under President Biden. So Rolling Stone has a good article about it under fake news. Nancy Mace says crime has skyrocketed under Biden. It hasn't. X, formerly Twitter, issued a community note correcting Mace's claim, but then the platform later removed it. And again, it has the quote here. Data from the FBI shows that crime decreased significantly in 2023, including a 13% decline in murder, a 6% decline in reported violent crime, and a 4% decrease in reported property crime. at some point in 2022, at the end of 2022 or 2023, there was just a tipping point where violence started to fall and just continued to fall, says Jeff Asher, a crime analyst and co-founder of Datalytics, told NPR in February. Okay, so, and actually, we'll get into why the perception is what it is, because certainly Republicans and conservatives will tell you that they feel crime is skyrocketing, but I think it's a feedback loop probably to punish the Democrat in power. We'll get to that in a second. But as I mentioned, there was a community note. I saw it myself, and it was a brutal fact check. And then it vanished mysteriously. Aaron Rupar pointed it out. And again, it's worth noting that Elon Musk, again, the owner of Twitter, who says that's supposed to be unbiased and he wants there to be no bias with respect to political affiliation, is a pretty strident and open supporter of the modern day Republican Party. And in every election cycle since 2020 that I'm familiar with, Musk has encouraged people to vote Republican. So I don't know why the community note vanished, but it's just kind of funny how it seems to align with Elon Musk's particular party affiliation. Okay. One other thing that this article points out, it's worth noting, some forms of crime did actually increase during the pandemic under Donald Trump. Murders rose in 2020 by almost 30%. 30%. Violent crime overall grew by 5%, and aggravated assault increased by nearly 12% that year. Okay, so nobody talks about that. As a matter of fact, what they try to do is suggest that that was a fluke, or again, 2020 was one of those weird years where, yeah, sure, Trump was president, but it was really Biden's fault. And I've actually been sparring with people on Twitter for the past couple of days about this. But why do people think that crime is on the rise when the facts say otherwise? Well, again, we're seeing a dissonance between the facts and vibes in a number of areas of life. But clips like this from the Fox propaganda network don't help.
But the other thing is that the Biden administration says crime's down. But then if you go on TikTok, and that's where 50% of millennials getting their information, that's where they're seeing that crime feels like it is up to them. And
so that's Dana Perino. It's Bill Hemmer. These are people who are supposed to be part of the straight Fox News, like hard news journalists, right? They're not supposed to be opinion writers or commentators. They're supposed to be just telling you the facts. Well, why would they even validate that? Especially given how much Fox News loves to insult Gen Z and TikTok users all the time. Why wouldn't they take the time to say, and while those may be the vibes of TikTok users, the facts are in stark contrast. The facts show that crime is declining significantly. The point is that even the straight news part, the hard news part of the Fox propaganda network is trying to signal boost, to flirt with this idea that, hey, ignore the facts. You feel like crime is, it becomes a feedback loop, right? They want to signal boost the idea that everybody feels like crime is skyrocketing, and then they try to underreport or ignore or insinuate that the facts to the contrary are from the White House, right? That it's President Biden's propaganda. It's not actually the facts. But the facts are the facts, regardless of how they make you feel. Ben Shapiro would famously say, facts don't care about your feelings, gang.